Good boy, Tucker.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
Work smarter where you want.
Consistency is key.
And remember, if it's not in Redtail, it never happened.
This is learning at its most fun.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us on part 2 of the morning here, and that's going to be our next topic of tackling templates. So I have Austin here with us, so we're going to go through something that we're really actually quite happy about, and it's something that everyone can use. So that's the good news. This applies for literally everyone. But I do want to actually point out that I've seen a lot of questions this morning coming in with this whole concept of like categories. So we'll point out some ones as we're going through these templates themselves, but we are going to actually talk about really what a template is, why should we use them, how do we actually create them, because it's one thing to know them, it's another thing to build them. And then as far as like template features and some examples. So the good news is we are going to send a follow-up that has these PowerPoints in here. So all of these examples that you find throughout our PowerPoint, you will have those for you as well. But I will give a little teaser. There's another spot on our help desk that you can also find even more examples. So if you're like me, where we have great intentions with our ideas, but the execution is not so much there, then that's a great spot to kind of get started and get some juices flowing. But before we really dive into templates themselves, let's answer some basic questions, because I don't want to get too in the weeds before we go, hey, what's a template? So what is a template? A template in itself is really just a preset format for a document or file, in our case, the CRM here, used that the format does not have to be recreated each time. So I don't know about any of you, but I do not like having to rebuild the exact same thing over and over and over. I feel like we're already living in a Groundhog Day of 2020 that any way I can cut that out of the equation, I'm going to do that. Now, Austin, why should we use templates?
Great question, Catherine. When you think that question, why should I use a template? 2 words, consistency and efficiency. Templates are going to make me faster and more efficient in my database. I don't need to be spending minutes out of my day typing things that I type over and over and over again. And templates are going to streamline that by pre-filling a lot of the things that I would be needing to type in. And then they also create consistency. So the same thing that I'm typing in is the same thing Catherine's going to type in, because we work in the same database. And so if we want our data to look consistent and to be the same across the users, then we should use templates.
Exactly. Now, a very popular question we get frequently is, well, who can build them? Because obviously, if it's not something that everyone can do, I don't want to go back there and get my hopes dashed, right? But the good news is technically anyone can actually take the time to build out templates. So unlike some managed database lists or managing the users and teams where it requires that admin access, you actually don't have to have that to build out a template. So if you can log into Redtail, you can build a template. But Austin, who can use them?
Also anybody. So just like how anybody can build them, anybody can use them. And so as long as you're an active Redtail user, the template section is available to you.
Perfect. All right. And then the last question here is, so if anyone can build them and anyone can use them, does that also mean that if I take the time to build them, can everyone in our database use them as well? And the answer is yes. As long, again, as that someone has built them out, technically everyone who's part of that same database can access this. So I've seen some offices find success by just having like one person or like a team as like the template builders. So that way they kind of create a format and then it's applicable for everyone in, again, that particular setting. So whether it's an office, several offices, I know some people have like a West Coast office, an East Coast office. As long as someone builds out that template for the database, it is universal for everyone. So now that we have these kind of questions answered, how do we build them? How do we actually start getting this into our system? So to create a template, you're actually going to start by clicking your name in the top right-hand corner. And then you're actually going to come on down to this manage your account section. And then once you're there, it's going to redirect you to another page where manage templates are in the middle of the page. Now, I'm going to say this exact like 3-step process about 12 times today. So I'm going to apologize that now because I'm going to sound like a broken record. But if that's a way for you to remember that, oh my God, Catherine's annoying voice is stuck in my head, she tells me to go here, then I'd say my job was a success today. But again, you're going to click on your name in the top right, manage your account, and then manage templates. Now remember, anyone can do this, so there's no excuse why we can't get this really going and working in our favor today. But remember, we're also going to point out those values as far as like those categories that we'll find. So things like that is definitely going to help. All right. Now, with much excitement here, the first one that we have is our activity templates. So when we actually are talking about activities, we kind of hinted at that earlier with the first session with those calendars. These are all of those future things that we have to take care of. So whether it's a phone call or a meeting, or maybe it's just a way we want to block off the calendar to say, hey, please don't book anything at this time. I'm trying to get my life together. Even if it's something like that, you can put that into the system. So just a couple examples that we have in here before we build one out. Follow-up phone call. If that's something where, hey, it's a Monday morning, we come in and there's 17 million, recorded messages we have to respond to. Setting up those follow-up phone calls so we don't forget anyone is an easy way to do that, and it's something you might do frequently. Client reviews, whether we want to meet with them once a year or not, we have to. But this is, again, a way that we can create that consistency by using in that same type, in those same categories, in pre-filling in any descriptions to cover those agendas. So again, the main thing I want to come across here is that these templates are designed to cut back on some of that monotonous clicking we find ourselves doing. Again, I don't love going to the same type, clicking down the same category, clicking down, typing out the same subject. It gets old. So I can definitely relate to you, I promise. But that's where these activity templates come into play, is it cuts down on that. So
in the last section, we talked to Curtis and Catherine, or not Curtis and Catherine. Sorry, I'm so used to you guys presenting together. Curtis and Haley talked about the importance of that category and how it's important for us to put that in there to make sure that we can run those reports later. The same thing applies with activity templates, is it automatically sets that category. So that way, all my annual client reviews have the category of client review notes. And so they're all there. I don't have to search for different categories to find my client review notes. So that's how we make things more consistent. And as far as efficiency goes, utilize that description field. You can add all kinds of detail in there. You can provide instructions. So for example, if I was a new employee that just came on to the firm and I knew nothing about the client review process, what to do, what calendar to put things on, I can go ahead and add that to the description field. So that way that new employee already knows what to do. And then for the same thing, for things like phone calls, you can add in the phone script. For things like meetings, you can go ahead and put in the meeting agenda. Its descriptions give directions and they give information for people who might not be sure what exactly that activity entails.
Exactly. I love that, actually. So think of templates, again, exactly what Austin's just saying there, is it's helping us guide some of those new employees, or for, again, any of those out there like me who it's just, what am I doing this morning? That's where that description can help us kind of act as that second brain. So definitely a great shout out on that concept. So let's actually go ahead and hop into the database and build out an activity template. So let's come on over here. And then again, we're going to click on our name in the top right-hand corner, come on down to manage your account. And then again, about halfway down the page, you'll see manage templates. So the good news is activity templates is our first option here. So I'm going to click on that. Now, one warning, if you've never built out a template and you don't see anything here, it's not the end of the world. You didn't do anything wrong, I promise. You just haven't built one out yet. So that's where we can come over here, click on that new button and start building it out. So I don't see one in here already for our follow-up phone call. So I'm going to build that in here. Now our name, looks like I already have this before. Now our name is just going to be an easy way for this template to be recognized. A common thing I've seen, not necessarily for activities, but for some other templates, I'll see where it's like template 1. Don't set yourself up for failure that way. Make it nice and simple on what exactly the name is. Now my subject, I'm just going to put as follow-up. And then again, my type and category. Now you do start off with some defaults, but you can customize this list. This is one part though that you do have to be an admin. So if you do not have admin access, I'm sorry, you won't be able to add any of these custom types or these custom categories. But I will point that out really quick if you do have admin access or if you're unsure. But for this one, I'm just going to put a type of phone call that is a default, but I'm going to use a customized category of phone call outgoing. Now in here, this is where I'm just going to say items to discuss, and then put a little list so that way we have it in the description. So we're not setting ourselves up for failure going, what am I calling about? We can put it in here. Now, if this is always supposed to be one person in particular, I could change the attendee if I wish. If I'm supposed to have it so that way it's assigned to the current user, I can just check that off. That's actually something really new. And then again, if it's supposed to have a certain importance or priority. So maybe this is something really, really important that anytime I miss those, I want to make sure I respond back. I could set these different high, low, normals. Now, do proceed with caution with this. If you set everything as high, it's kind of a moot point. So use this only when you really need to. So I'm going to set this as just normal, and then again, save my activity template. So here it is right here. Again, I can click that right open, has my name, my subject, my type, my category. Even if I wanted this as an all day, I could check that and save this. Items to discuss, create current user, update that activity, and again, I'm all done. So as you can see, it takes just a matter of, 30 seconds there? Very quick setup for you to actually utilize this activity template. Now to actually use it, again, once it's built back here, that's where I can come up to this little quick add, that plus sign at the top, come to activities, and now I will have that as an option for a drop down. So when I come to click phone call, follow-up phone call, again, has my subject, has all day, phone call outgoing, defaults to what I'm logged in as Tucker McLaughlin, kept my normal of importance, didn't set my priority because I didn't change that. And again, I get this little banner at the top saying, hey, there's a description. So very easy, very, very manageable in terms of getting things started. But definitely, if you haven't set one up, I really encourage this one.
So much more efficient.
So much, right? Otherwise, I'd have to click that, and it really does get old and just repetitive. So another thing that kind of works in tangent with that is notes. So note templates, a little bit different of approach where it's not so much you're clicking the same drop downs every time. This one actually helps more along those lines of organization and consistency. So again, we have those names, make it obvious, put exactly what it's actually talking about. But this time, the body is actually how we want it to show up when we use that note template. So as you can see here, we've got quite a different range in terms of different examples that we have. But again, the whole point of this is to create that consistency, cut down on some of that typing that we feel like we've done 700 times, put in those questions that you know for a fact, not to diss anyone, but advisor number 7 always forgets question 4, put that in there. So again, think of it as like a pre-filled format. If I have it in here, there's really no excuse for me to go, whoops, I forgot about that again, and then insert comment because I have to fix it again. So utilize this again in tangent with those activity templates to make it easier. Now, coming back before I hop to the next one.
Just wanted to add a couple things there for note templates. So we talked about templates being making us more consistent, more efficient. They make us more consistent by making everybody's note look the same. So if I'm entering client review notes and Catherine's entering client review notes, our notes are going to follow the same kind of format because we're using that same template. And then they also make us more efficient because a lot of the information that we add to that note template is going to be kind of the same for each client review. There's going to be certain topics and certain advice that we give on a consistent basis. And so maybe just have that already pre-typed out into the template. And then if you need to, you can always just delete it if it doesn't necessarily apply to that note. But it saves me the time from using this guy right here, and I can go ahead and get back to doing my business quicker by just entering my notes.
Exactly. So I do want to actually point out again here before I show, I think for probably the 4th time already, on what it is that you'll do to add it. But just remember, anyone can set these up. So if it really is where we want one person to come back here and make it so that way all of us benefit it, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that one person knows that you're kind of in charge of doing it. But again, build once, use many for, again, anyone in that database. Now, again, to get to those templates, we're going to click on our name in the top right, back on down to manage your account. But this time, before I hop into note templates, I do want to point out really quick, should you look at your activity templates and your note templates and you're, again, not seeing those types and those categories that you wish to see, I know James had that question, well, how do I add categories? If you see this admins only section, that's a good start. That's beautiful. It's what you need. But this managed database list is where you're going to go to add in those different types and categories. So if you actually scroll down just a little bit, that's where activity types and categories exist. And again, you can add particularly that information that applies for you. So coming back to our manage your account section for the notes, should I wish to add in something about money movement? Should I wish to add something about beneficiary update, client reviews again, maybe prospecting information? When I come up to new, that's when I'll have those different categories. So kind of a popular question we get frequently is, well, what should I have in my category list? There's really not like a end all be all correct answer to that question because it's 100% based off of what you find valuable. So while we have account support, maybe that's too vague for you. Maybe you want it specifically like a new account or account update or account closing. Again, that's entirely up to you. Maybe you want it has client review, not necessarily with a meaning in there. Maybe you want to add in prospecting as well as onboarding. Maybe you want it as one. Again, this is up to you as far as what this list is, but I do encourage you to add those categories. So that way when you create these note templates, you have a way of saving it under that category, which is easier to pull in a report later on. So I'm not going to bore you all by typing out, the next novel and half of a note here template, but I do want to just kind of point out some examples here where again, it's kind of like a, hey, this is what you need to fill in here. Or, hey, this is just a quick update on money movement. I want you to be able to fill out these particular answers. So again, whether it's literally like a form we're filling out, or if it's something that we're just saying, hey, meeting confirmed, they discussed this. If that's something you feel like you put in every single day, every 5 minutes, add that as a note template. So again, you're not limited. Anyone can build this, anyone can use them. But again, you do want to do this so that way it creates that same consistency and really ties in what Austin was saying earlier. Now, similar to our activities, I can come up to this quick add at the top, come on down to notes. And again, I'd have that note template at the top. Now, one kind of like warning, but not so much warning, just a quick clarification I want to say. If you plan on using note templates, make sure you actually click the note template first, because if I start typing in here, we discussed blah, 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 so on and so forth. If I actually pick a template after, it's going to remove what I started typing. So make sure you start here first before actually putting in any content. All right, so just wanted to get those, and then we're going to head on over to our next templates because we have quite a few to discuss, and that's actually automation. So I did see someone pop in here earlier. Looks like it was Louie, who's really interested in this topic. So hopefully we can help you out here, because you're right, automations can be rather confusing because what are they? So all an automation really is if something happens, something else happens in exchange. So we have two different examples here. And again, we're going to hop in and show how that kind of looks. But if I have something like a client review that we have the meeting that's actually set up, but maybe I also created a workflow that has that whole process. The, hey, call and confirm, get this printed, follow up with the notes, all of that whole checklist shaboodle of things I got to get done. But to save us some extra clicks, which is really where templates come into play, I can create an automation. So this automation that we have on this left-hand side, all it's saying here is that if I add an activity today, i.e. that client review meeting, I want that workflow to attach in the background. But I don't obviously want it to attach to every single activity I do. Imagine what you do in a day. Not all of it's going to deal with client review, but if I don't use these conditions, that's kind of what it's implying, is that no matter what activity you add, that client review workflow is going to attach. So again, come in with these conditions. So what a condition is just saying is that if I have this scenario pop up down here, I only want it to apply specifically when I have a type that's equal to client review, or when I have a category that's equal to client review. So again, what this is saying is that if I add a client review activity today, I want it to link my client review workflow specifically when I pick that type. That's all it's actually saying. And again, it's just working in the background. Now, that's not the only example. You don't always have to link a workflow. Maybe it's just to help with communications. So the example that we have on this right-hand side, what this is just saying is that if there's a status change, I wanted to actually notify everyone in my office because something has happened. Now, in this one, I have an if any condition, because what this is saying is that if either of these statuses is now part of that situation, I want to let my team know. So if they have deceased or now they're an inactive client, I want my email or my team to be notified again with this automation. So again, all an automation is if something happens, something else happens in return.
So remember, templates make us, again, more consistent and more efficient. And so on the consistency side on the left here, we might be in the good habit of adding an activity when we have a client review, but maybe we're forgetful to start that workflow. The automation removes that margin of error and it makes it happen automatically. Same thing with the example on the right-hand side. We have, maybe you are really good at making sure that your Redtail data stays up to date by changing contact statuses, but sometimes you're bad at letting the team know that you're making those changes. Create an automation and it's consistently going to email the team every time that change is made. And then of course, as far as efficiency kind of goes for itself, it makes it automatic. So it's less clicks for me to have to do things in Redtail, therefore making me faster.
Perfect. So actually to kind of tie in exactly what you had just said there, Austin, Lauren had put in a question here that's saying like any tips for managing these templates when there's a lot of users in your database. So when it comes to the fact that anyone could build these templates, if there are a lot of you in the same database, I do recommend setting up kind of that like templates team that I mentioned earlier. So that way only those who really have that kind of title can really touch those. That'll help again, kind of have a little that less kitchens in the, or less cooks in the kitchen kind of concept. Try to do something along those lines, especially when it comes to like these automations. If I, again, come to my name and manager account, if we have so many people that are coming back here and they click on the automation templates, that is where I tend to see a lot of like duplications where it's the same thing and we've just built it twice because we're not really paying attention. So make sure that, again, if there are a lot of you and or if there's just a lot of miscommunication, make sure you double check that it doesn't already exist before you come over here and click add. That way you don't have, again, the same automation set up. You're just doubling up that work. But again, an automation here, all it is really coming up with a name. So I'm just going to give it as, I'm going to do fall series, just so we have a name here. And then you'll get these as your trigger events. These are the only ones that you can pick from here. So once you have a scenario in mind, come back here and go, okay, well, this one's based off of a meeting getting added. This one's actually more of a prospecting. So once I've added that contact to my system, I want this. This one, again, is that status change. If this happens, I want this to happen type of thing. So I'm just going to pick on the contact added because it's not one that we had on the other page. But this is where I can then come to do this action. And I could say, hey, I want to let a user or team know. I want to link that workflow, which tends to be the most popular answer. Or I want to set particular permissions or fields. The one thing to keep in mind is that this type is always going to be based off of what we have as our trigger event. So you won't necessarily see like permissions with an activity based. But again, from here, it's just a matter of picking out those workflows and setting those conditions to your advantage. Don't overcomplicate it. That's the one thing I'll always say is I see people come here and they just overthink it like crazy. They'll come back here and go, well, it could be this or could be that or could be that. Then that's an if any. If it's one of those where it only should apply to this, that's an if all condition. So again, you can have as many as you wish, but try to avoid, and this goes for all of the templates, try to avoid duplicates of the same thing. All right. So with automations, it's hard not to talk about workflows. And I swear, whenever I say that, I can hear someone out there that's just like horror music, lightning strike, that just dread chill down their bones. But workflows don't have to be that scary. I promise. This is not like a Halloween trick that we're working up to.
I think I'm going to be a workflow for Halloween.
Right? That would be phenomenal, actually. But
Halloween's in the neighborhood.
anyone in this industry would be like, I understand completely. But all a workflow is just a checklist. When you really strip away everything that it is, it's just a checklist. So if you have hopped into your database and you've stared at the screen and you're just like, no, and you just exit out of it. I get it. I really do. But again, it's just a process to help make sure that everything we do is actually getting done. So we're not sitting there at the end of the day going, oops, we let that slip through the cracks. Or did we actually do that? I don't know. I don't see anything in here. That's, again, really where this workflow process comes in. So it can be as simple as this one on the left, where it's one step in just a couple of different tasks. And they're not even complicated tasks. It's just making sure that the client record is as robust as possible. This one, obviously, a couple steps here that we see. Where I see most people getting confused, though, is with that target date. And all that is really like the pivot point. If it's on a meeting, chances are high the meeting's the target date, and everything around it is either before or after. If it's something like prospecting, which I think you actually have tomorrow, Austin, so I'll kind of leave that for excitement. You can set up those again to revolve around like a contact getting added. So just to hop back over here, and again, I'm going to be that broken record, click your name in the top right, manage your account. But again, workflows are going to be found right at the bottom. So this is alphabetized, if I didn't say that already, but workflow templates are right here. And again, you just come over here, click new, and start building out your templates. Now, I will 100% admit that when it comes to a workflow, they can be extremely tedious to build. Now, I don't have all day here to explain how to build a workflow. I have been told it is inappropriate for me to keep you here all day. But if you are stuck when it comes to building out workflows, we did do a series a couple months back that breaks down every single step that you should take. That whiteboarding concept, how to come back here and build it. You built it, now what? How to actually implement it. What else can we build? How do you use those automations to, again, make it easier for you to trigger this workflow? All it is, though, again, is just a set of saying, hey, at this time we need to do this. At this time we need to do that. And at this time we have to do that. So that's all it is. Now, let's see here. I want to say I saw something here really quick with a question. Actually, no, I think we're all good here. But one thing I want to point out, because I'm actually shocked I didn't get this question, categories make a comeback with workflows. So when I come over here and I'm actually just going to click on this name, I can have this category again come back. It's that same list we saw earlier. The main reason is because, again, when a workflow is completed, it saves it as a note, which again is useful when it comes to reporting. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make things, one, as organized as possible. Two, it's kind of there to help us with our future selves. So that way we're not sitting there going, oh no, we saved everything as general information. Now I got to find it. If we set ourselves up here with our categories, we create our templates, it's just a streamlined process that we work through.
I wanted to just add a tip here. So one thing that we get from training sessions a lot is people sometimes will come overwhelmed with the workflow process. Keep in mind, they're just checklists. They're not that scary, but I will be one for Halloween. The point I want to make here is to give you value of workflows. Is you do these processes all the time. You are a master at them because you probably, for a lot of advisors, been doing it for year after year after year after year. But the problem is that knowledge is stored in your head. And so sometimes it's hard for newer associates or even some experienced ones to kind of know what your process is or how you would like things done in your office. And so workflows are a great way to take that knowledge in your head, build it in a templated process, and allow for your team to follow along with how you want things to be done.
That's actually a really good call out there too, because you're right. If you don't add it in here, use descriptions as well. So I know Austin mentioned that earlier with activities. It comes back again. Use these descriptions to help explain what lives up here to put it down kind of in the cloud for everyone else. So it's almost like we're reading each other's minds without having to do anything extra. All right, so now that we've got the scary workflows behind us, the next one we're going to talk about is actually our email templates. So you can technically set up some email templates. So if we want to send something like a broadcast email, this actually seemed to gain some momentum here, especially when we started working from home, because a lot of the things I kept seeing, especially starting in like May, June, when we're like, ooh, we really are in for the long haul, better strap ourselves in type of thing. One thing I kept seeing is that, well, we want to keep our clients updated. And the easiest way was, well, a bulk email. So instead of typing out pretty much the same thing of, hey, yeah, we're still working from home, day 358, yeah, we're still working from home, we have this email template that has basically that same concept, but we can always adapt it just a little bit if we need to. So it could be something along the lines of like a, hey, here's an update on our current situation. Or it could be more of a, whoops, we're missing information. We've added in the contact, but we forgot to get their email, or we forgot to get their work address and we need to do something with that. This is something that you can design again to set up so that way you're not reinventing the wheel every time. More of it's maybe more prospecting again. Maybe it's a, hey, welcome aboard. You decided to give us a chance. Now let's go ahead and move forward with it. One thing that you might be seeing here, and I know it's a little small, so we'll definitely pull up one, but you can use what's called those mail merge fields. So if anyone has ever received anything, and it's politics season, so I feel like we're receiving 800 things in the mail right now, or emails, instead of it saying like, hey, dear valued customer, you're seeing your name instead. So that way you at least know, okay, they remember me. That's where you can come in here and again, use that to your advantage. So coming back.
With the theme for email templates of efficiency and consistency. So let's start with consistency. Email templates make us more consistent because they allow for our messaging to be consistent, regardless of who's sending the email. So as you know, there's always the compliance side of things. We don't want our associates saying things to our clients that we wouldn't normally say them to them ourselves. And so creating them email templates allows for them not to have to do that free thinking and start typing away with whatever they want to send. You can kind of control not only what they say, but also keep your messaging more consistent. We want to have that same kind of tone, that same kind of brand across all of our emails to our contacts.
Exactly.
As far as efficiency goes, Harvard Business Review did a study and found that 28% of a business professional's day is spent sending and receiving emails. 28%, that's over a quarter of your day just spent in your email inbox. Wouldn't it be so much better to speed that up? That's what email templates can do for you. They can pre-fill a lot of that information that you're typing out each time you send an email and make you more efficient at your emails.
Exactly. So I'm actually shocked it's so low. I feel like it's like 50% of my day, but
It's obviously going to vary by profession, but that was for all U.S. business professionals.
But as far as setting these up, so if you can relate to that, we're like, you're right, I do live, eat, sleep, breathe, and emailing. You can, again, come up to your name and manage your account. This time, email templates is actually perfectly in the middle here. Now, this is what you can use, again, to stay within Redtail itself. So there usually is some preferences that you'll have to set up, get those SMTPs added. I know there's some exceptions out there, so definitely if you have any questions when it comes to that, reach out to support. Or we did do a webinar strictly on broadcast emails that also can be really helpful. But once you do have those SMTP settings up, if they're required, and again, you find yourself typing the same things or we're afraid of what our coworkers might say on their own, this is where we can come back here and again, create it. So if we have something like appointment cancellation reschedule, I can have even these kind of fancy designs thrown in here so it feels a little bit more special. Again, utilizing our mail merge field so that way it's actually addressed to the client's name and not those valued customers that no one actually feels valued reading. So it can be really up to you as what you set. One thing I'd recommend, and again, this is just because if I do something on Monday come Friday, I'm not going to remember, save the copy as a note. So that way, again, you can look back on it and go, oh, that's right, I did send that out. It's on the contact record. So you can use, again, whatever you find helpful, coronavirus update, appointment thank you, congratulations. I know, especially for the class of 2020, that was a rough year, but you can use these to your advantage to send off that quick email template. Now, kind of the reverse side of that coin is actually mail merge templates themselves. So if you are still sending kind of like actual physical items, so whether that is a card that you wanted to send out, or if we're mailing out quite a bit of things and you want to create that envelope, you can. Whether it's a letter, and again, that can be construed several different ways. A reminder for an actual appointment. If you have someone out there who's just like, I don't have an email, then I get it. You have to use a letter to let them know. Then you can set up something like that. Or, hey, congratulations on onboarding with us, something like that. So mail merge, unlike email templates, don't necessarily start in the CRM. That's actually going to start with the Microsoft Word document. So whether, again, that is a card, a letter, an envelope. Where it ends up, though, is actually back with the manage your account section, and then you'll upload it into the mail merge templates. So once you have it built out, you can come back here, actually drag and drop it, so it's actually utilized. Now, unlike activity templates and note templates and workflow templates where they can all be triggered from this quick add, mail merge and your email templates really come into play from a contact options with the bulk actions type of action. That was in English reverse. The contact options sections of your CRM. So if I just come to my favorites here really quick, I've got a couple in here. When I come to contact options, that's where you're going to see mail merge. If you click bulk actions, this is where you'll see that broadcast email. So again, that's just one thing to remember, is that they reside in a slightly different location, not to be confused with coming up to that quick add. But again, you want to build them in that manager account section first. Now,
for resources on how to do mail merge or build that template part, so that Microsoft Word part that Catherine's talking about, we have lots of videos on the help desk. It's going to vary a little bit based off your Mac or Windows, but if you want to see like the available fields that you can use in a mail merge, definitely go to our help desk and just use the search at the top right to search for mail merge, and you'll find lots of great information about how to build an awesome mail merge template.
Perfect. So I'm glad you plugged that in here, mail merge fields. There's also, and again, I'm going to come back to that in a second, mail merge video. So if you've never built one before, no shame. I promise we've all been in that spot, but definitely check out those videos so that way you aren't kept in the dark. You can figure out those situations. But brings us to, I believe, our final template here, which isn't necessarily one you might use every single day. I don't want to say that it's not possible, but this is actually one that's really helpful when it comes to cleanup or when we're looking for particular information. And that's actually our custom export template. So really what this is like a DIY report. If you find yourself saying, well, I need this basic information and I need to know the last note and the last activity, but these 7 user-defined fields and these 6 keywords, now you have this laundry list of things you're looking for. Instead of, again, running maybe 4 different reports or running 6 different searches, you can create what's called a custom export template to give you exactly what you're looking for. So if I come back over here, we come back to the CRM, we'll come back to our name again, back to manage your account, and then this time we'll click on custom export templates, and then we'll come on over here to new, and this is why I call it my DIY. I'm literally checking off what I find valuable. So usually I always just tip here, have first and last name at least, or full name. And then again, you're just checking off what you find valuable. So very popular question I feel like I keep getting recently at least. If I want to know all of those user-defined fields, this is actually really the best spot to come and get that information, because when you run a report for a user-defined field, it's just the one. But if I want to get everything that's for this, or maybe just a couple here, and a couple keywords, and a couple of account information, things like that, this is where, again, you're going to want to come. Now, similar to that mail merge and similar to that broadcast email, this is also something that you would run from the contact options. So once you have, again, built it out, this is where, again, I can run against my favorites, a quick list, all of those different things I can think about, have that list, custom exports. Once it loads here, it's going to be right here under custom exports under that contact option. So again, use that whenever you need to do maybe a cleanup. Or again, if you find yourself saying, well, they're asking me for these 17 items, this is the good spot to come.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on cleanup. We'll be covering that a little bit later in overseeing operations, section 4 of today. But definitely, it's great for cleanup, and it's great for, hey, Redtail doesn't quite have a report for exactly what I'm looking for. Well, you can make it yourself using custom exports.
Yeah. All right, so bringing up the end of our kind of presentation here before I give one more thing I want to point out on the help desk. What this is really just saying here is that this whole process of creating these templates are not only there to help, again, create that consistency, to cut down on some of that monotonous clicking, to avoid potential chaos when it comes to our organization and reporting. The whole purpose of this, again, is also to make your life easier in terms of working through situations. I, again, might have an activity template that in reaction triggers an automation template, which then links that workflow, which I can then have a workflow that has a note template directly related to the content or the content in that workflow itself. So again, think of like a client review where I have that client review meeting, the automation triggers that client review workflow in the background. And in that follow-up task, I have a step to add in my notes. That is literally what this process is saying. Maybe I have more of a prospecting where I add the contact and it triggers the workflow. Or maybe I missed, again, a phone call and I had that note template to say, hey, this is what they called about. Let me create that follow-up. So these are just examples of, again, those processes that you actually work through. But think about those ones on your own. I guarantee there's some out there where you're like, you're right, I do this, 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 and this in that order. I wish I could make it easier. This is what's going to make it easier. So the very last thing, and then I promise we can take our break here really quick, on that same help desk, so again, coming back to the help desk section, if you actually type out, it's called sample templates here at the top, we have a bunch of different examples here under Redtail sample templates that cover activity templates, automation, email, mail merge, no templates. So everything we just went through, this again is a great place to come should you sit there and go, I know we have stuff, but I don't know where to begin. This can again kind of get those juices flowing, get your brain working, and then hopefully again make it easier on you.
The question we get a lot about those templates is, are they compliance approved? And the answer is they're so general that they don't have to be. Because really just to give you an idea of how an activity template or how a note template or how an automation template works, the idea is that you take it and you go make it your own. You develop your own process and put your own details similar to the examples that we have there. So again, they're just the starting point. They're not intended for you to go use exactly as they are. You are supposed to go and edit and customize them and make it your own.
Exactly. But with all of that said, again, you will get a copy of everything that we have in here. Again, those sample templates live in the help desk themselves. So hopefully, if there's one thing you could take back today is build out at least a couple of those templates to make your life easy.
Thanks so much for joining us today for this particular session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call at 800-206-5030, option 3 for support, or just shoot us an email over to support@redtailtechnology.com. Thanks a lot and have a great day.